All right, let's talk about something absolutely critical. If you're running any kind of commercial streaming service, you know that security isn't just some feature you tack on at the end. Nope, it's the very foundation your business is built on. So today, we're going to peel back the layers and really dig into how it all works, from encryption all the way to tracing leaks. Let's get into it. And hey, just so we're all on the same page, this is part 3 of our big 15-part tutorial. We're breaking down this really comprehensive report from Virtualization Options LLC, all about how streaming services actually work. This one's for all you IT pros out there, so we're going to get right into the technical weeds. Okay, so here's the game plan for today. First, we'll talk about the big challenge, why this is so hard. Then we're going to walk through what's called a defense in depth model. Think of it like layers of an onion. We'll start with protecting the content itself with DRM. Then we'll look at how to secure it while it's flying across the internet. After that, we'll cover how you trace leaks if someone does get through. And finally, we'll wrap up by talking about the real-world balancing act you have to do. All right, let's kick things off. Section 1, the Streaming Security Challenge. So why is content protection so critical? And honestly, why is it such a headache to get right? Well, it really boils down to this one simple fact. The report we're drawing from puts it perfectly. You've got the rights holders, the studios, the content creators, and they have demands that are completely non-negotiable. They expect, and frankly require, really sophisticated protection against piracy. We're talking encryption, access control, monitoring, the whole 9 yards. And it's that business reality that drives every single piece of tech we're about to break. So that brings us to our first real layer of defense. Let's talk about protecting the content with what's called digital rights management, or DRM. The easiest way to think about it, it's the lock you put on the actual media file. So what is DRM, really? You can break it down into 2 main jobs. First, it scrambles the media file with encryption, making it totally unreadable. But then, and this is the key part, it controls who gets the decryption key. It's a gatekeeper. If you're an authorized user on a trusted device, you get the key. If not, that video file is just a bunch of useless data. Okay, so how does this actually work in the real world? It's basically a 3-step dance. Step 1, the content gets encrypted before it ever leaves the server. Step 2, you hit play and your device sends a request to a special license server asking, hey, can I have the key? And then step 3, assuming everything checks out, the key is delivered and the video starts playing in a secure environment on your device, getting decrypted just moments before it hits your screen. Now, here's where it gets a little messy for anyone trying to build a service. There isn't just one DRM system. Nope, it's a totally fragmented market. You've got Google's Widevine, which is huge on Android and Chrome. You've got Microsoft's PlayReady for Windows and Xbox. And of course, Apple has FairPlay lockdown on all their devices. And this isn't some accident. These big tech companies want to control security on their platforms from top to bottom. So for you, the IT professional, what does this mean? It means you can't just pick one. You have to have a multi-DRM strategy if you want to be on every screen. And one more crucial detail here. Not all DRM is created equal. You've got 2 main flavors. The top tier is hardware-level security. You'll see it called L1 for Widevine or SL3000 for PlayReady. This is the real deal. All the decryption happens inside a secure, tamper-proof part of the chip itself. This is the only way you're allowed to stream premium stuff like 4K and HDR. Then you have the lower, software-based level. It's fine, but it's more vulnerable. And because of that, rights holders will usually only let you stream standard def, maybe 720p. Okay, that makes sense, right? The file itself is locked down tight with DRM. But that file still has to get from the server to your screen, and it's got to travel across the wild, open internet. So the next logical question is, how do you protect it while it's in transit? And that brings us right to our second layer of defense, securing content in transit. This is all about protecting the data while it's on the move. So the absolute workhorse for this is HTTPS, which uses what's called Transport Layer Security, or TLS. And look, this is way more than just that little padlock icon you see in your browser. It encrypts everything. The manifest files, that's the playlist for the video, and all the little video chunks themselves. This means nobody in the middle, not even your internet provider, can see what you're watching or mess with the stream. It's so important that modern browsers just flat out refuse to do DRM without it. And then, on top of that, the content delivery networks, or CDNs, add their own layer of protection. They use things like signed URLs and token authentication. Basically, it's a way to make sure that only a logged-in, paying customer can actually download the video files. These special links or tokens usually expire after a few minutes or hours, which is a super effective way to prevent what's called hot linking, where someone just steals the link to your video and puts it on their own site. Okay, so let's recap. We've put a lock on the file with DRM, and we've put the file in an armored truck with TLS. But what if a really determined pirate finds a way around all that? What if they just, point a camera at the screen or use screen recording software? What then? This is where the last line of defense kicks in. Tracing leaks with watermarking. And notice the keyword there is tracing. This isn't about stopping the leak from happening. It's about finding out who's responsible after it's already out in the wild. So what is forensic watermarking? Think of it like a completely invisible digital fingerprint that gets embedded right into the video stream. Each user gets their own unique fingerprint. And the crazy thing is, this watermark is designed to be incredibly tough. Pirates can try to recompress the video, crop it, whatever. That watermark is designed to survive so you can still find it. The way this is done now is really clever. It's session-based. That means every single time you hit play, a brand new, unique watermark is generated and embedded on the fly. And this watermark contains all sorts of juicy information: the user ID, the time, maybe even the device info. So if that video ever pops up on a pirate website, the content owner can just analyze the file, pull out that watermark, and trace the leak back to the exact account, the exact device, and the exact time it was stolen. Okay, so as you can probably tell, putting all these layers together, DRM, secure transport, watermarking, it's not exactly a walk in the park. It's complex. And that brings us to our final, and maybe most important section, the Security Balancing Act. Let's talk about the operational reality of making all this stuff work. Right, for any of you out there who actually have to manage these systems day to day, you know this is where the rubber meets the road. DRM is a huge operational lift. Your licensed server has to be absolutely bulletproof, because if it goes down for even a second, playback stops for everyone. Period. The time it takes to fetch that license, that directly adds to your video startup time. Then you've got to worry about key rotation policies, how to handle offline playback. It's a lot. And you're always making trade-offs. Sure, a super aggressive key rotation might be more secure, but if it adds half a second of lag every time someone changes the channel during a live game, your users are going to riot. That's the balance. And really, that leaves us with a fundamental question that everyone in this space has to wrestle with every single day. Every single security measure we've talked about, every layer of protection, it all adds a little bit of complexity, a potential point of failure, maybe a few extra milliseconds of delay. So as you're building these systems, you are constantly walking this tightrope between enhanced security and user convenience. So the question I'll leave you with is, where do you draw the line?